How to outsmart fools and reclaim your power. Have you ever felt like you're speaking to a brick wall, explaining, reasoning, even pleading with someone who refuses to understand? It's like they're trapped in their own echo chamber, immune to logic and fueled by stubbornness. And the more you try to bring clarity, the deeper they sink into denial. Sound familiar? This isn't just frustrating, it's draining. But what if I told you that you don't have to play their game anymore? That there's a smarter way to protect your energy, guard your peace, and elevate your mind above the noise? In this video, we're going deep into the psychology of ignorance, why some people cling to false beliefs no matter how much truth you present, and how you can rise above it all with intelligence and strategy. You'll discover how great thinkers in history handled irrational people, why arguing with fools often destroys your peace, and, most importantly, how to outsmart them without even engaging in their nonsense. So if you're ready to stop wasting energy, reclaim your mental power, and protect your clarity in a chaotic world, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications, because what you'll hear today might just change the way you deal with ignorance forever. Topic 1: The Trap of Arguing with the Irrational. Why logic fails against delusion. There's a fundamental error many intelligent people make, assuming that rational arguments will persuade irrational minds. It seems logical. If someone holds a false belief, surely presenting facts will make them reconsider. But the truth is far more complex. When someone is deeply attached to a belief, especially one rooted in emotion, identity, or fear, logic becomes irrelevant. Facts don't penetrate. Instead, they often trigger defensiveness, denial, or even hostility. This is the first cognitive trap you must learn to spot. Psychologists call this motivated reasoning, the mental habit of bending facts to fit one's preferred conclusion. When people are emotionally invested in being right, they unconsciously reject anything that threatens their worldview. That's why arguing with a fool isn't just unproductive, it's psychologically futile. You may think you're offering clarity, but they see you as the enemy of their comfort zone. And no one surrenders their comfort willingly. Have you ever noticed how some people don't just resist new information, they mock it? That's not ignorance. It's ego protection in disguise. The fool would rather ridicule the truth than admit they were wrong. The more you push, the more they retreat. The stronger your arguments, the tighter they cling to delusion. You're not having a conversation, you're witnessing a defense mechanism at work. Understanding this saves you energy. It teaches you that your intelligence isn't measured by how well you argue, but by how wisely you choose your battles. Some minds are not ready, and that's not your burden to fix. The most powerful thinkers throughout history rarely engaged in petty debate. Why? Because they understood that not every mind is fertile soil for truth. Some are barren deserts where seeds of reason cannot grow. Socrates didn't just question others. He knew when to walk away. Einstein didn't waste time on people who misinterpreted his theories deliberately. They chose silence over struggle, serenity over chaos. Modern life demands the same discernment. Social media, family gatherings, even workplace discussions are filled with traps for your energy. Every argument isn't an opportunity, it's often a distraction. So ask yourself, am I debating because there's hope for understanding, or because my ego wants to win? That distinction can save your peace of mind. The need to be right is often disguised as the desire to educate others. But if your message isn't welcome, you're casting pearls before swine. Let that sink in. Fools thrive on reaction. The more agitated you become, the more empowered they feel. They don't seek truth. They seek emotional dominance. Don't feed their game. True wisdom is quiet. It doesn't need to shout, prove, or dominate. It observes, discerns, and withdraws when necessary. And in that silence, power grows. You must learn the art of strategic silence, knowing when your words uplift and when they are merely background noise in someone else's drama. There's a profound strength in choosing peace over being right. When you step back from the need to correct fools, You reclaim your mental space and emotional balance. Not every conversation deserves your input. Not every provocation deserves your response. Maturity is learning when silence speaks louder than logic. That's how you begin to outsmart fools, not with louder arguments, but with deeper awareness. If this resonates with you, tell me in the comments. Have you ever wasted energy trying to convince someone who refused to understand? How did it affect you? Because your story may help someone else realize that they're not alone, and that silence, sometimes, is the greatest form of wisdom. Topic 2. The psychology behind foolishness. Why some minds reject truth. To outsmart fools, you must first understand what makes them fools. Not in a moral sense, but in a psychological one. Ignorance is not just a lack of knowledge. It's often a defense mechanism against discomfort. Many people unconsciously reject the truth not because they can't understand it, but because accepting it would force them to question who they are. And nothing terrifies the human ego more than self-doubt. This is the root of cognitive dissonance, the mental tension that arises when a person is confronted with facts that contradict their belief. Most people choose to reduce that discomfort not by changing their beliefs, but by rejecting the fact. That's why you'll often see irrational people dismiss truth with sarcasm, anger, or mockery. They are not defending logic. They're defending identity. Their beliefs are not ideas to be evaluated but parts of their self-image to be protected. This is why facts often bounce off fools like arrows off armor. They've built a fortress of emotional reasoning that shields them from reality. And the stronger their emotional investment, the thicker the walls. But here's the twist. The more ignorant someone is, the more certain they tend to feel. This is known as the Dunning-Kruger effect, where those with low ability in a subject tend to overestimate their competence. Ironically, the wisest people often doubt themselves, while the most ignorant speak with absolute confidence. This imbalance of confidence and competence fuels much of the chaos in conversations today. That's why arguing with a fool often feels like walking through quicksand. No matter how clearly you speak, they're standing on a different ground, one built not on reason but on emotional bias and false certainty. Understanding this shifts your approach. Instead of trying to educate someone who resists truth, you begin to observe. You see their patterns, their triggers, their blind spots, not with judgment but with awareness. When you understand that foolishness is often a coping mechanism, not a conscious choice, you stop taking it personally. You stop reacting. You start detaching. And in detachment, you gain power. You no longer feel the need to correct or fix. You learn to conserve your energy for those who are truly open. You also start to recognize your own blind spot. Because let's be honest, we've all resisted truth at some point. The difference is whether we stay stuck or choose to grow. Fools stay stuck because they fear transformation. But wisdom begins with humility, the willingness to be wrong, to question, to learn. So the real game isn't about proving you're smarter. It's about staying conscious, staying awake, and refusing to be pulled into the illusions of others. This is where mental clarity becomes your greatest weapon. The clearer your perception, the less reactive you become. You stop battling illusions and start seeing through them. Don't waste your fire trying to illuminate those who cover their eyes. Use your light to see your own path more clearly. That's how you stay powerful in a world full of noise. And remember, not every fool wears a mask of ignorance. Some wear the mask of intellect, authority, or charisma. But their arrogance often reveals their inner emptiness. You don't need to fight them. You just need to see them clearly, and walk your path with precision, not distraction. If this makes sense to you, leave a comment below. What helped you gain mental clarity in your own life? What was the turning point? Because your insight could be the seed of awakening for someone else. Topic 3: The power of emotional detachment. Protecting your peace from chaos. One of the greatest skills you can develop in a world filled with noise and foolishness is emotional detachment. It doesn't mean apathy, it means clarity. It means learning to observe chaos without absorbing it. Fools thrive on reaction. They poke, provoke, and push, not to understand, but to pull you into their emotional vortex. The moment you react, they win. Not because they're right, but because you've lost your peace. Emotional detachment allows you to see nonsense for what it is, without letting it poison your spirit. It's the ability to watch the storm without becoming the storm. This doesn't mean you ignore reality. It means you choose wisely where to invest your mental and emotional energy. And most of the time, fools don't deserve that investment. Ask yourself, how many arguments have you walked away from feeling enlightened? Now ask, how many have left you drained, angry, or frustrated? That's the cost of engaging with chaos. Detachment is the art of strategic distance. You can still speak truth, but without being consumed by the need to be heard. You can still observe people, but without tying your peace to their behavior. It's like watching a play from the audience instead of getting dragged onto the stage. You see the characters, the drama, the foolishness, but you stay in your seat, calm and centered. This emotional boundary is a shield. It protects your clarity, your focus, and your energy. And in a world where attention is constantly hijacked, your energy is your currency. Fools want you to spend it. They want to provoke your outrage, your frustration, your indignation, because it gives them a sense of power. Don't give them that satisfaction. You reclaim your power by refusing to be baited. You win by choosing silence when chaos invites noise. You elevate by walking away when ignorance seeks a stage. Detachment also helps you see people for who they truly are, not who they pretend to be. You begin to read their emotional games, their need for control, their fear behind the mask of arrogance. You start seeing patterns, not just in them, but in yourself. You recognize when your ego wants to respond, and you choose differently. That's self-mastery in action. You stop reacting to fools not because they don't matter, but because your peace matters more. And once you taste that inner calm, you'll never want to trade it for petty battles again. Detachment also allows you to engage wisely. You learn when to speak, how to speak, and, most importantly, when not to speak at all. That's real communication power, because sometimes the most powerful response is no response at all. Not out of weakness, but from strength. Not from fear, but from clarity. Fools don't understand silence. It unsettles them. It exposes their emptiness. And in that void, they often implode under the weight of their own nonsense. Meanwhile, you walk in peace. You stay in flow. You move forward while they stay stuck in circles. That's how you rise, by choosing stillness over struggle. So the next time someone tries to pull you into senseless debate, ask yourself, is this worth my peace? Or is this just noise dressed as dialogue? If you've learned the power of emotional detachment in your own life, share it in the comments. What changed for you when you stopped reacting to chaos? Your story might inspire someone else to reclaim their own peace and stop feeding the fire of foolishness. Topic 4 is strategic intelligence. How great minds navigate ignorance. There's a silent brilliance in the way great minds navigate ignorance, not through confrontation, but through strategy. They don't waste energy trying to convert fools. They use wisdom to preserve clarity and redirect focus toward what truly matters. Strategic intelligence is the ability to recognize when a conversation is no longer about truth, but about ego, status, or emotional warfare. And once you see that, the smartest move is often to disengage. Sun Tzu once said, "Avoid what is strong. Attack what is weak." But when dealing with fools, the opposite applies. Avoid what is weak-minded, and strengthen your own inner fortress. There is no honor in winning a battle that shouldn't have been fought in the first place. True power is knowing which fights are distractions and which are opportunities for growth. Many people confuse reactivity with strength. They believe that raising their voice, dominating a conversation, or humiliating someone is a sign of power. But real strength is silent, subtle, and surgical. Great thinkers don't debate for validation, they observe for insight. They study patterns, not just words. They listen beyond the noise and detect what others miss. The insecurities behind bravado, the fear behind resistance. Strategic intelligence also means developing verbal aikido, the art of redirecting ignorance without resistance. You don't absorb the attack. You let it pass and pivot the conversation to your center of gravity. Instead of responding to provocation, you respond to purpose. You lead the conversation in a direction that serves truth, not ego. And if that's not possible, you exit with elegance, not resentment. That's a lesson worth learning. Walking away without bitterness is more powerful than staying to prove a point. Fools crave attention. Deny them that, and you starve their delusion. You must learn to use silence as a weapon, questions as mirrors, and calmness as armor. Let them rant. Let them twist their words. Let them sink in their own confusion while you stay still like a mountain. Because every second spent reacting to nonsense is a second stolen from your purpose. And great minds don't sacrifice purpose for provocation. Another key to strategic intelligence is detachment from outcome. You're not there to win. You're there to observe, influence when possible, and walk away when necessary. That clarity changes everything. You also learn to protect your environment. Just as you guard your physical space, guard your mental space. Who you engage with shapes your thinking. Don't let fools take up real estate in your mind. Be selective with your energy. Be surgical with your time. Let your focus be a sanctuary where ignorance cannot enter. Every great thinker, from Marcus Aurelius to Viktor Frankl, knew the secret. You don't need to change the world's noise. You need to strengthen your inner signal. And that signal grows stronger the more you distance yourself from fools, not out of superiority, but out of reverence for your peace, clarity, and purpose. Because the deeper your purpose, the more distractions will appear. And the more fools will try to pull you into their small games. But you're not here to play, you're here to build. So don't get caught in their traps. Move like a strategist. Think like a philosopher. Speak like a master, or not at all. Now tell me in the comments. Have you ever walked away from a pointless debate and felt stronger for it? What helped you choose silence over struggle? Because your wisdom might inspire someone else to shift from chaos to strategy, and that shift can be life-changing. Topic 5: Reclaiming your inner power. The final shift in consciousness. There comes a point in your journey where you stop trying to fix fools, and start focusing entirely on elevating your own mind. That's when everything changes. That's when you reclaim your power. The moment you realize that your energy is sacred, your attention becomes selective. You begin to value your silence more than your arguments, and your peace more than your pride. Fools may never change, but you can. You can rise above the noise, the emotional traps, and the intellectual chaos. Not by fighting them, but by outgrowing them. You don't rise by proving you're better. You rise by proving to yourself that you don't need their validation, that your truth stands strong in silence, not in confrontation. This is the final shift in consciousness, when you stop trying to win small battles and start playing a higher game. A game where your presence speaks louder than your words. You become untouchable, not because you fight harder, but because you no longer engage where there's nothing to gain. Your emotional stillness becomes your shield. You stop chasing closure. You stop needing them to understand. You stop hoping they'll change. Because deep down, you've accepted a powerful truth. Not everyone is meant to evolve with you. And that's okay. Your mission was never to convince everyone. It was to evolve yourself. To grow, to sharpen your mind, and to walk your path with clarity. As you rise, fools may still appear. They may still try to provoke you, confuse you, or mock you. But you'll smile, not out of arrogance, but out of awareness. You'll see them for what they are, mirrors of what you used to be, tests of your emotional mastery, distractions in disguise. And with grace, you'll move forward, unshaken. Your time is too valuable to be spent arguing with noise. Your mind is too powerful to be dragged into confusion. And your energy is too rare to be wasted on chaos. This doesn't make you cold, it makes you focused. It makes you grounded in your purpose, refined in your thinking, and wise in your interactions. You've reached the point where presence becomes persuasion, and silence becomes strategy. You don't need to scream your truth, you simply embody it. That's the highest level of power, not dominating others, but mastering yourself. Not reacting to ignorance, but radiating clarity. From this place, you inspire, not by arguing, but by being. You influence, not by shouting, but by standing firm in truth. You teach, not by correcting, but by exemplifying. And those who are truly ready to grow will feel your presence and follow your example. The rest will stay behind, and that's not your concern anymore. So ask yourself today, are you wasting your light trying to fix what refuses to be lit? Or are you walking forward, boldly, silently, with power in your steps? Because the world doesn't need more noise. It needs more clarity. It needs people like you, who've outsmarted fools, reclaimed their peace, and now walk with purpose. If this message resonated with you, leave a comment below. What's one decision you'll make today to protect your mind and reclaim your power? And don't forget, like, subscribe, and share this video if you want more content like this. Your support helps this message reach more minds ready to awaken. Topic 6. The silent power of inner mastery. When fools can no longer reach you. There's a level of personal evolution where fools can no longer disturb your peace. Not because they've changed, but because you've transcended their influence. You've reached a place where your response is not silence out of restraint, but silence born of sovereignty. At this level, you're no longer avoiding arguments, you're simply no longer accessible to them. Your energy has risen above the frequency where ignorance thrives. You don't resist it, you simply pass through it untouched. This is the realm of inner mastery, where your mind becomes a sanctuary, your emotions remain centered, and your presence exudes quiet authority. No need to argue. No need to explain. You simply are. Fools may continue to speak, provoke, and project, but their chaos no longer hooks you emotionally. You observe without reacting. You witness without absorbing. You exist without being pulled into their storms. It's a strange kind of power, one that feels like peace, and yet it's unshakable. It's the power of knowing that nothing outside you can disturb what you've mastered within. This level of awareness creates a natural boundary. People sense it. They feel the strength of your presence and either adjust their tone or quietly withdraw. That's influence without effort. You no longer need to dominate a conversation to be heard. Your calmness says everything. Your stillness becomes a mirror, and fools don't like what they see in it. What you've cultivated internally becomes your shield externally. You've built mental discipline, emotional resilience, and spiritual clarity. That's what makes you untouchable, and the more untouchable you become, the more fools try to provoke you, because deep down they feel your power. But what they don't realize is that you don't respond from ego, you respond from consciousness. This is when your life begins to attract new energy. Higher conversations, deeper insights, and connections that resonate with your growth, not your past. Fools may still exist in your environment, but they no longer exist in your world. You see them, but they no longer shape your mood, your thoughts, or your energy field. You've become the observer, not the reactor. The anchor, not the wave. The still flame in a room full of smoke. And in this place, your mission changes. You're no longer trying to prove wisdom, you're simply living it. And that example becomes the most powerful message of all. Inner mastery is not about perfection. It's about awareness. It's about knowing when your peace is being tested and choosing not to trade it for temporary satisfaction. You walk slower. You speak softer. You feel deeper. And yet, you carry more power than ever before. Because nothing screams louder than inner silence rooted in strength. This is the ultimate way to outsmart fools, not by fighting, but by outgrowing. Not by confronting them, but by evolving beyond the need to be affected by them. And from this space, you inspire others, not through argument but through embodiment. You become living proof that peace is the highest form of power. So ask yourself, have you reached that inner space where fools no longer shake you? Or are you still giving away your energy to battles that no longer belong to you? Leave a comment below and share your experience. You might help someone else take their first step toward true inner mastery. If you've made it this far, you already know the truth. Power is not in domination, it's in self-mastery. Outsmarting fools isn't about winning arguments, it's about rising above the noise, protecting your clarity, and embodying peace so deeply that ignorance can't touch you. This video wasn't just about tactics, it was about transformation, about shifting from reactivity to presence, from chaos to clarity, from frustration to focused power. And if that shift has begun inside you, then you've already reclaimed what matters most, your inner sovereignty. So if this message ignited something in you, click like, subscribe, and share this video with someone ready to rise. And in the comments, tell us, what does power mean to you now, after everything you've heard here today?